question, Mr. Hall.
Yes.
I noticed that your protagonist book, Gates of Bone, is being. Would you like to see?
Yes.
Yes. I noticed that your protagonist book, Peyton Daltrey's book, Gates of Bone, has been republished toward the end of the novel. Are there any prospects with regard to the corpus of Joe Bailey?
You have identified that book as the corpus of Joe Bailey, I see. Indeed it was. I was kind of famous all over town for a while after Joe Bailey. I was denounced from the pulpit. I mean, life doesn't get any better than that. Thank you.
Yes.
You heard this more.
Well, you told us several years ago when you were here that you had chopped a big hunk out of the corpus of Joe Bailey because it was too long, or the publishers said it was too long. Was that big hunk eventually Love and War? Or was
No. Love and War is, you know, Love and War kind of started with that idea. When I was a young man in San Diego, we used to make fun. There was a little right-wing newspaper that had the headline "Tots Molested," and it was. I figured out they used the word "tots," which was kind of a funny word. It was molested because one was long and the other had to be short to be a headline. And they used "Tots Molested" to get people to read the paper, which was right-wing propaganda. In that case, I changed it into left-wing propaganda for my own purposes, and. That had a lot to do with the writing of this book. This hadn't anything to do with Joe Bailey. I gave this guy a different kind of a funny kind of name so it wouldn't be a common name like Joe Bailey. I wanted him to be a different kind of hero. And the heroine, I know I've disappointed my friend Dave Nuffer because my heroine is not as good as Con Robinson was. But it's a lot easier to write about bad girls than it is to write about good girls.
Why are you looking at your wife?
We're looking at Barbara Vestal next time.
I have another question, Mr. Hall.
Yes.
Was Errol Flynn's yacht actually in San Diego Harbor?
A lot, yeah. A lot, and there was the legend.
And did he entertain sorority girls from San Diego State?
There was a legend that he'd taken this whole sorority out on his boat, and they had a good time. Nothing bad happened, but two of them went back, and good God, what terrible things happened to them.
I think you wrote in your book that if someone stepped on the yacht, she lost her virginity.
Yeah, we could get it back buying war bonds.
Was it called the Zaka? The yacht?
No, it was Sirocco.
Okay, you had a later
Sirocco.
Did he have this was a kind of a schooner. It was a big boat. He had a.
Did he? They used to dive off the
I don't know. I didn't know him, you know, but he was kind of a fixture at the Hotel Coronado where dances. You'd have your dances. He would kind of look over your girlfriends. And there was a real feeling of threat. You could take him away if he wanted to.
Of course he could.
Of course he could. Yeah.
I wonder if you had personal experience of fraternities, because you wrote about them in Joe Bailey and also in Love and War in California. The whole cutting thing and the group meetings about attitude.
All that. And a bunch of jerkery it all was. I got terrifically, I was a Phi Delta Theta. I was an Epsilon Eta at State, and they were okay. I was a Phi Delta Theta at Berkeley. There was anti-Semitism came into my life for the first time. You were from San Diego. You didn't even know about Jews. What was bad about Jews? And it was bad up there, you know. And you have you're a member of a national fraternity. You have a thing called a bond. And I tried to send back my bond. Because after the war, they were very anti-Semitic, and they kept writing things how you could have a Christian group of people if you wanted to, and I was all terrible anti-Semitic bullshit. I hated it, and now they're after me again. Now that I'm semi-famous, you know, they send little guys, and I said, "Boy, in my time, a guy your color would never have gotten into Phi Delta Theta." Yeah, well, I'm not as savage as I sound, but the fact is, I don't want anything to do with it. I didn't. Yeah, but I lived in a fraternity house on the Berkeley campus, where the board was room and board was $40 a month, and I got half of that off by washing pots. And I washed the pots, and we had a guy named Eddie who made the beds. That's living it up a bit, you know.
Did you have the GI Bill from your time in the Marine Corps?
You bet. Used every instant of it. By the time I'd finished the GI Bill, just about making a living writing.
Yeah.
That would, you know, our generation had it so much better than World War I, where they just kind of mistreated those guys so badly. Remember the bonus marchers and things like that? Yes.
Did you spend time living yourself in Mission Hills? I grew up in Mission Hills.
We lived at 2378 Presidio Drive.
No kidding. I recognized the house.
Did you?
In fact, I think I know the.
They had the biggest plate glass window in Del Mar. Did at one time in San Diego. And you know, it's affected my whole writing career as having lived in Mission Hills and then getting sent down, so to speak, when my father went broke in the Depression, lost his job with R.E. Hazard, and yeah, and then he did other things, like he made a lot of trips to Tijuana for some reason. Why did he do that? I don't even want to know what he was doing.
Actually, Oakley, that leads me to my next question.
Yes.
In your book, your Peyton Daltrey refers to the Molino Rojo and the Pizan manual. Did those exist, or did you make them up?
Made him up.
All right.
Well, I didn't make up the Molino Rojo was there,
Yes.
and all this existed, but I didn't ever see it. But you hear about the terrible donkey shows. And
I've heard about such things
Yeah,
in literature. Yes.
There were some actual people who'd seen them apparently.
Yes.
The Pizan manual, there was a little book somewhat like that a friend of mine had, and as you can tell, I was incensed by fascist nonsense that was in.
There's a question in the back from the gentleman.
You used the word joystick. That's a modern what was a joystick in the 40s?
Didn't they use joysticks in the 40s?
Well, you used it to describe.
Well, it was hanging onto a piece of his appendage of his physiognomy.
It's something you use in computer games. That's called
Oh, is that right? Before that, it was the thing you guided an airplane around with.
right.
That was the origin, was as an airplane.
Yeah, the airplane. Yeah, well, you don't want to say it right out, these things, but there was his girlfriend might come in, anyone with good heavens. Then what would happen? Well, I gave a reading this afternoon about abortion. There's a lot about abortion in the book. Abortion was such an important thing because your life was ruined. I mean, you were absolutely suicidal if you got pregnant at that time. What would you do? Well, I guess what you do is you go somewhere else in the state and have the baby, and then no one would know. It was a real terror for women, I'm sure. Yes.
Were there, San Diego 1942 is the setting for much of this, and at some point you referred to some of the Zoot Suit riots and the violence coming down here from Los Angeles. Was that historical, or was that something that you brought in?
I don't know if they had it in San Diego or not. They certainly had it in L.A. I was at Cal at that time, and I came on the bus. And in the bus, you had to transfer from the bus over to the train, and you had to go through some part of L.A., and that was one of the Zoot Suit riots, and the Marines were beating up on these 14-year-old kids, and in their draped shape. And I don't pretend I was mad at everything, but I was mad at a lot of stuff that was going on. And it comes out in this book. Yeah. I don't know if they had it in San Diego. I wouldn't be surprised. Some Zoot Suiters had stolen some, mugged some Marines or something like that, and boy, they got them if they did that. Yes.
I think they did in Philadelphia also.
Did they? Yeah.